I remember waking up in the hospital with direct dialysis to my heart, strapped into a bed, and the nurse is like shoots up and she's like, "Don't move, like you could injure your heart." And I'm like, what is going on? I was really mad that I woke up.
Things were not fine for you, but on the outside, they looked fine.
I became a single parent at a really young age, 3 kids, same father. Felt like I had to explain that everywhere I went. The church that I had gone to at the time, they had a single moms group, but do you know where that was? It was located in the basement in the back corner with like 2 lights on. The hardest part was realizing I didn't actually have an identity. And I went through the whole crisis of that because my whole identity was mom. You know, I was 19 when I had a child. It went from daughter to mom. And there was no Candice. My insecurity is holding back a message that could change the next life. And I have to get over myself.
You're listening to Fine is a 4-letter word. I'm your host, Lori Seitz. This show exists because fine is a lie leaders tell themselves. And it costs them their people, their culture, and their impact. Every episode, a leader gets honest about what it really takes to lead with empathy, vulnerability, gratitude, and courage. I trust something in this conversation will stay with you. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Fine is a 4-letter word. My guest today is Candice Van Dertholen. Welcome to the show, Candice.
Oh my gosh. I just have to say, you nailed my last name. Nobody ever does that.
It doesn't seem that hard. It's just, it seems just exactly as it's spelled.
Just saying, you did amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. And Candice and I were introduced by our mutual friend, Chris Shembra, which people have heard me talk about. Chris was a past guest. His show aired back in 2022.
Oh, wow.
And yes. And then Candice was living, where were you in Colorado?
California.
California. Okay. And Chris said, and she was moving to Charlotte, and Chris introduced the two of us because he knew I was hosting gratitude dinners here. And Candice had been here like, I don't know, 2 days and came to one of my gratitude dinners with. Yes. And now between the two of us, so you've been here about a year, almost a year.
Celebrating a year in June, actually.
All right, cool. And I've been here 18 months, and between the two of us, we probably know everyone in Charlotte.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
We came in with intention, and this city doesn't know what happened to it.
I love it. I love it.
Candice, what were the values and beliefs that you were raised with that contributed to you becoming who you are? Let's give the listeners a little background.
Yeah, so I would say that most of my values and beliefs have shifted over time.
Sure.
It's been really valuable to grow up understanding that hard work pays off and all the normal like sayings, but I would say at the core of my belief, though, that has never changed is about personal integrity. So, who are you when nobody's looking, and how are you treating others on the other side of that? And I will say that one of the things that stuck out to me as a kid was do not judge others, not even yourself. Even though I've struggled with judging myself and all the things, it still stuck with me that is just something that we have to learn and understand why we don't need to judge anybody for where they're at, because you just really never know what they're going through, what they've been through. And what does it really matter at the end of the day for my life anyway?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
oh my gosh. Yes. We don't really think about that part. Like, what does it matter?
Like, what does it actually matter? Does it add value to your life to judge somebody else? No, actually, it takes away.
Do you think people judge other people to make themselves feel better?
So I think it's always an inner reflection. Sometimes it's things that are being mirrored to them from their past experiences. And yeah, I think when you hold insecurity, it's real easy to want to pull others down instead of just realizing like we're all meant to rise up and we all do something so uniquely different. So why not just embrace that difference and honor that? But if you don't hold personal value, you can't value others the same.
Yeah. Well, sure. But you didn't always have that.
You know, what's interesting is I kind of feel like I might not have personal value to myself, but for some reason, I have just never held this idea that we need to judge others and or tear others down. I've never felt like that in my entire life, even like as a little kid. But I think part of that goes back to I was minorly bullied as a kid. I kind of stood out. I was like super nerdy, loved school. Like we had actually we had a post about that, and you're like, I don't know if I consider myself a nerd. I was like, I'll fully embrace it. I don't care. Like I love to read. I love science. I love all the things. And I really loved school. And like when you're a kid that loves school, that's like not cool. Like nobody back then, now it is, but it's, anyways, I digress. So I would still say, though, at the core of my essence, I've never really been a person to judge. And I will credit my mom for that because when we were growing up, she was an overnight nurse and
Oh, wow.
also did at home health care for cancer and leukemia patients. And all of these were children. And most of them were living with like in the most impoverished like circumstances. So growing up, I would go to this really wealthy school, middle class, like not there yet, but then to go and see these children who just had like life was all they were excited about and being alive was all they were excited about.
Mhm.
It was such a different experience to go from one world to the other and think about all of that. And I don't know that I knew that then, but it kind of laid that inner foundation of there is so much more to our human experience than we're seeing right now.
Interesting. So nobody said that to you, you just picked it up.
No. Yeah, because, I just remember going and my mom was like, "Now don't accept any food and don't do this because they don't have any money and like they're barely making it as it is." And while she was trying to teach us manners, I don't think she understood their culture. But at the same time, it was just a level of gratitude that
Mm.
she was trying to instill in us. I was still a kid. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I was just like, oh, this saint that like never wanted anything. No, I understood that I feel like there was just so much more value that was being laid within my heart. Just being around death at a young age so early, I think that had a lot to do with even the work I do today when I think about it. Oh my gosh, I'm just now like getting that.
Look at that. Look what this show does to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it even goes back to, and we talked about this, later on after last week about how much healing happened from my lived experience that I didn't have the same compassion and understanding for my mom until after I went through a really abusive marriage and he was a paramedic and a firefighter.
Sure.
And it wasn't even until this year. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my mother. She's amazing. And there's just always been a disconnection in certain things. And so when I was having a conversation, probably like in January of this year, I was talking about his PTSD and his moments where he would just explode. And then I was like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
my mom used to have PTSD and none of us knew it. I didn't know it. And I was sitting there internalizing everything that she was saying and like, oh, I'm this big failure because I'm not a perfect kid. And all the time, it was really just her trying to process what she was living through as an experience. And that's all it took for me to not only hold another layer of compassion for her, but then have healing for myself.
Mhm.
And that's how this work kind of happens. It's not all overnight. And I think a lot of people confuse energy healing and healing work with this overnight transformation. And it's like, no, I'm still going through moments of aha and connection where it's like, oh my gosh, like this is what I've been holding on to this whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's not overnight. Nothing, no work that you do is overnight, necessarily overnight sensation, overnight healing.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
wait, maybe that's the episode of the title of the episode, overnight healing. Everybody's going to want to listen to that one. So,
yeah. Right. Right.
well, and you went through a lot to get to this point. Like, it's not like you had that came out of this family and then all of a sudden had this compassion, 6 months ago for your mom. Like there was a lot of life in between all of those years when, and again, show is fine is a 4-letter word, when things were not fine for you, but on the outside they looked fine.
Yeah, I don't even know if they looked fine on the outside, to be transparent. Like when I was going through it, it was really hard. I went through so many challenges. I became a single parent at a really young age, 3 kids, same father. Felt like I had to explain that everywhere I went because,
Really?
yeah, I was 22, moved back to Texas where there's just like a judgment. Talk about not judging, but
Speaking of judgments,
literally all the judgment. And even when I look back, the church that I had gone to at the time, they had a single moms group, but do you know where that was? It was located in the basement in the back corner with like 2 lights on.
yeah, we don't want anybody to see you. So just
We don't want anybody to turn out like you, so we can make sure we put you all the way over here. And I didn't even like realize it then, but there was just so much judgment. And I was just doing my best. I would work 2 and 3 jobs to get, barely ahead and just pushed really hard. I've done so many different things in my life actually because of that. Like I became a corrections officer at one point and like did all this work.
all
Uh-oh.
right, wait a second. Yes, the corrections officer part. Okay,
Yeah.
y'all are if you're watching the video part, you can't even tell because we're just sitting. You see our headshot part of things. Candice is like a small person. So how are you a corrections officer? I mean, it's not like you're like you have a big presence.
No, I don't even know. I actually, so what's interesting, even when I look back, so I was in the testing. So you have to do a formal written test, and I got anxiety midway. And I like went to go and I was going to tell the person, like, I can't finish this. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm like hyperventilating. It was so embarrassing. And she's like, just sit down and finish. Like, you're going to be fine. And I don't know why. I just did it. And out of 200 applicants, 74 of us got in and I was one of them.
Wow.
And I did it because back then the money was really great comparative to what I was doing. And so I did that while waiting tables. But looking back, I don't know that I knew I was in danger ever because this wasn't like a regular prison. This was a Texas max security prison, level 5. So like there's 5 different levels. They're everything from like a DWI that's been there like 12 times usually and or people who have done really big things. And so I walked around and you're never allowed to know what they do. And we call it we can't look at their card, their travel card,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't put them in jeopardy in just in case it's certain types of offenses. But I remember this one time I was escorting this gentleman who had to have been like 300 pounds and he was like 7 feet tall. And I'm literally standing there behind him and I'm like, all he would have to do is flick his finger and I would just be in the corner. So I don't even know how I did it to be and I did develop really bad anxiety, and only stayed in the position for about 7 months because it just got really overwhelming. And being a female, like I just enjoyed that I didn't have to get ready and it was a steady paycheck and like you just do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really mentally hard for me because that environment, while I don't have a lived experience of loss from someone on that side, so I do understand that it was still really hard to just see people in the prison because I just didn't see the point, and they don't have anything to do all day but torment you, and so it was just an all around not Candace experience, and
Yeah.
I don't even again, I still don't know. Sometimes I don't know how I get hired for these things, like, you just need a warm body? I think so, but, anyway.
Well, because you present well, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sure she can do the job."
Yeah, basically, they're like, "Oh, you're not completely insane. We'll let you do it."
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you left after 7 months because anxiety was so bad, even though the money was good, but you had to put your mental health ahead.
Well, they actually made me because I passed out twice in the general population, and so I became a risk because being a female, passing out in an all-male unit, that's not good news, and so I actually was put on a medical discharge with the if I could get cleared to come back, and I took that as I'm not coming back. So Yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you were in an abusive marriage. Was that before or after and it wasn't to a prisoner, right?
No, no. I never had the desire to date anybody. No. No, no, no. Well, you do have to clarify that too, you know? Yeah, no, no. That would be much further after. In fact, him and I met at the pool with our kids. And so what seemed like a lovely connection slowly changed and transitioned as we were dating. And I wasn't really paying attention. It goes back to why doing healing work, whatever form it is, therapy, energy medicine, whatever,
Mm,
it's so important because we really do accept patterns of energy that are familiar. So, his patterns of behavior growing up in an environment where my dad was very volatile, my mom was semi volatile. So, like the energy was just uncertain all the time. So I was technically safe and comfortable with that. Well, when I called it into my being for this second husband, like it was really challenging because I wasn't recognizing the signals because I was just like, "Oh, that's okay. Like people have anger, they have these issues." And so it didn't start out that way, but one thing that I will never forget is like one of my therapists had said like once they push you once, then it becomes the hit, then it becomes more.
mhm,
And actually, I think the emotional abuse was way more challenging than the physical. And so it would just be this whole journey with him. And what really set it off is we were at a gathering with my kids and he got belligerent drunk. I called him the wrong name out of anger. And he shot up and got very violent. And so on the car ride home, there was a lot of him trying to push me out of the car, take himself out of the car. It was traumatic for
mm.
everybody in the vehicle.
And your
And
kids were in the car?
and my kids were in the car.
Oh my
And
gosh,
so
okay.
because of all of that, I would then spend more time dealing with CPS on my side because I was driving, I put the kids in the car. And so it was like a whole thing that really destroyed my mental health because not only was I a single parent struggling, I was already struggling with mental health after having 3 kids. I recognize now that my hormones were so off balanced that I didn't even know like what my mental state was half the time.
Mm,
And then when I did have anxiety or depression, I was told to just put it down. I wasn't told to deal with it. And so I never got any help at all throughout this whole transitional period until I was forced into this separation with my children. And that took my entire identity away. Talk about like feeling the lowest I've ever felt in my entire life. And there was a point where I just wanted to give up. And the abuse got worse. Him and I had actually separated after that incident. And then there was a car accident that I was in that caused us to come back together. I had actually gone to pick up someone who had been drinking and I was stupid myself. And she's like, "Oh, no, just have a drink." And so I had a drink. She didn't even end up leaving with me. And then I'm texting her while driving, which is why I'm very cautious about this now.
mm,
Texting while driving to check in on her as I'm on my way home after I had been drinking. And I dropped the phone in between the console. So I go to lean down. When I come back up, I went head straight into one of those medians that's on the highway. Thank goodness nobody else was involved, but it was in that moment that I got terrified and I didn't know who to call, and he was like the person I knew would come right then because he had been trying to get back in my life for a while, and that's where it all came back, and it caused the separation with my kids even further because I didn't have transportation, so it compounded an already awful situation. And so that was like my hardest moments were with him, and then the what would lead me to
mm,
everything that caused me to change was actually when I was going through the separation. I had already moved out of the state because I couldn't handle the being there and just not seeing my it was just too much for me. And we were in a different state. He was actually out of the picture at the time again because he had attempted to like it was like a whole story, But it was at the point where I was ready to leave and he was gone. So I feel fortunate that he wasn't in the picture again. And yet it was this moment where I was still volatile and like in therapy. I went to Mother's Day church service and I bawled my eyes out and just thought, gosh, you are such a worthless human being. You do not need to be here. You don't have your kids. Like, what is wrong with you? And I nearly successfully took my life.
Mhm.
And it was that moment that I was just I mean, I just had nothing left. And I remember waking up in the hospital with direct dialysis to my heart, strapped into a bed, and the nurse is like, shoots up and she's like, don't move, like you could injure your heart. And I'm like, what is going on? I was really mad that I woke up because I was just like, you cannot do anything, can you? And then when I came into it, I was like, okay, well, I have to fix this. I can no longer ever be in this place. And it would be the last time I would struggle like that. So I would do everything I could to get myself better.
What 2 questions. 1, you mentioned you didn't have your kids. Where were they?
They were with my grandparents. So they were living with my grandparents in Texas. Yeah.
Okay. And then what were the things that you did? Like you woke up, you were angry, they were still there, but you decided I'm never going to be in this place again. And then like how did you figure out what to do? Because it seems like if you knew what to do, you would have done it already.
Right.
So it's
Right.
not like you just woke up and go, okay, here are the 5 things I need to do.
Yeah, no, I didn't have the five-step program just yet, but I would stay in the hospital and I would actually find a book by Joyce Meyer there called Battlefield of the Mind, and it opened me up to really think about things differently, and I couldn't even tell you now what the book is about. And then I had a really great therapist that I started seeing, and she had told me about the Buddha's brain
Mhm.
and how to like really think about trauma and get the appropriate help that I needed. I went on medication for a while. I started journaling. I did affirmations every single day without even knowing that they were a thing. I just wrote out, I want this change. I am this change. I'm doing this change. And I wrote it out like thousands of times and I started taking care of my physical health. So started working out, eating better,
Mm.
and just slowly like it was a piece by piece thing. It wasn't overnight. It would take me at least 2 years to really feel um, better about myself anyway. And I was still dealing with the worry and the fear that he would come find me because I had moved again. And so it was a whole process of unlearning who I thought I was and relearning who I was becoming.
I mean, things were showing up for you even though you weren't necessarily looking for them like the books. And, I love hearing stories like this because it's so interesting the way, I don't know, the universe or higher power, whatever you want to call it, puts things in front of you when you most need them.
Mhm. All the time. Every single time I've ever needed anything, it has come into my life like that. The divine messages, the connections, somebody saying something in conversation. And I remember the chaplain at the time when I woke up, because I was still really battling leaving, even though I knew. I was like, okay, like he's gone for a reason. But my Christian faith at the time was keeping me at this thought of, well, I've already had one divorce and I can't go through another. And like you stay with people and he's got PTSD and like all the things. And she said, honey,
Mm,
he has hurt you and he has done it multiple times. He has broken his commandment to take care of you as a husband. And I don't know why, but that was the permission I needed to just be like, okay, energetically, I was freed. And again, like and I'm so grateful for different resources because at the time I was on a sliding scale for therapy. So I think I was paying like $20 and that was a stretch for me.
mhm.
And it was just so it's one of the reasons why I have a pay it forward session on my site because I know what it's like to really want change and not have the necessary means to get there. And so I'm so thankful for resources like that and then just being able to finally find myself because the hardest part was realizing I didn't actually have an identity. and I went through the whole crisis of that
Okay.
because my whole identity was mom. I was 19 when I had a child. It went from daughter to mom, and there was no Candice, and so no wonder why I was spiraling so hard because everything about my identity was not there.
It was tied to somebody else.
Mhm. Yep. Exactly, exactly.
How did you so I know how the story ends for husband number 2.
Yeah.
How did you process your emotions around that? What were your emotions?
So it was really complex because,
And also
yeah, so
tell us what
I'll
happened.
so what happened was is we would separate, I would divorce, and I would actually meet my current husband, and I told him when I first met, I was like, "Look, I am a complicated wreck mess. You can take it or leave it. I'm not even trying to date anybody," and I really wasn't, and we lived far enough apart where we just got to know each other by the phone, and it was amazing. Well, he and I decided that we were going to stay together, and once we did that, we moved to Washington State. He's in the military. And during COVID, we knew we were moving to Virginia at the time.
Mm.
And so I, in a panic, because I knew we would be going through where he last lived, I was Google searching his name. And that's when I found his obituary. And I knew instantly because he was found by himself in his apartment, and I knew because he had struggled with several different attempts to take his life. And it was just this moment of, oh my gosh, he actually did it. And then there was this other moment of relief. So it was such a weird feeling because there was a huge part of me that was like,
Mhm.
so relieved for me because I was like, I'm never gonna have to worry about him because he would threaten me all the time, and it was awful. But then there was this awful heartbreak for this person that I knew never got help because that was the whole reason why we had to divorce was he just never would get help. And so trying to process that during COVID of all times, like, oh my gosh, like, talk about craziness. So, like, we're moving across the US, we get to Virginia, and I know that there was a part of me that just compartmentalized it. I just couldn't at the time, it was too much. I'm dealing with, my son trying to cope with COVID and my other 2 kids who were, one graduated, one was halfway graduated,
Mm.
by the time they were back with me, but so I really didn't have time to process it until later, and it would then be a year later that I would find out that my kid's father would pass away. So, it was like 2 major losses within 1 year, both ex-husbands. I kind of have a joke with my husband. I was like, "You can't leave me, it doesn't end well." Gotta have humor there. Um,
Right.
but it was really hard because that one was even more complex because he was in and out of their life, and it was more focused on supporting the kids versus my own stuff. And so again, I just kind of compartmentalized it. And so it was grief is such a weird thing. You move through it as you're ready to and in the ways that you are. And I think complex grief isn't spoken enough about because it's just not, I think it's disenfranchised grief, like, you're not really allowed to have it.
Right, like, if it's not somebody that is in your immediate family,
Mhm.
and it's perhaps somebody you don't still have a current relationship with,
Yeah, they're like, "Well, why aren't
then
you
what does it
okay?"
mean?
Yeah,
What
"Why
yeah.
aren't you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, because there was a lot of unspoken conversations and things that, and I didn't end well with either one of them, so I lived with that guilt for such a long time. And then I had to again work through that. And it was during that whole time I'm working in a job where I'm burning out. I'm like literally working 14-hour days on top of a 45-minute commute both ways. So just so burnout, so tired, trying to process everything. And I was joking with my husband because we were doing 75 hard. Like, why do I do this to myself? Like,
I did 75 hard, but I only did 30 days of it intentionally. Like, I started and said, "I'm not doing all 75 days. I'm gonna do 30 days." Anyway, yes.
I was like, let me
For
just
those of you who don't know what
add.
75 hard is, Google it and you'll find
Oh my gosh, how insane it
how
is.
actually hard it is.
It really was, and it really challenged. I needed it though at the time, and I
The
didn't
discipline.
realize it, the discipline, but then also it gave my husband and I space to because come hell or high water, I was walking at night because that's what I did for my outside activity. And it was literally, I picked the April shower time in Virginia. So it was hot and muggy and rainy and it was just awful. But the whole time I'm joking with him and I was telling him, I was like, I'm going to work at a yoga studio next. I'm going to sit at the front desk and I'm going to do nothing. And he just laughed at me. He's like, yeah, right. You could never possibly. And I was like, oh, I don't know. After this, I absolutely could. And it would be a year later that I literally would go and work for a yoga studio. I didn't work at the front desk. There wasn't a front desk yet, but I definitely feel like I manifested that. But it came at a time where I really needed the shift. And that's where I met my practitioner and how I got into energy work. And it literally was the missing link that I needed for the rest of my healing journey.
What would you say to somebody who's listening who is looking for, like, what is the next step for me? I feel like I'm not in a place where I want to be, and I'm not the leader that I want to be right now.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on what are you defining as the leader you want to be. Have you looked at that yet? And what story is going on in the background that's telling you you're unworthy to be that leader? Because a lot of our stories that we hold on to come from our lived experiences. They stay in our energy and then inadvertently will create self sabotaging patterns that keep us from the next layer.
Mm.
It's one of the reasons why I work with people that are right in that pivotal moment where they're like, "Oh, I just need to break through." And yet they don't believe they're worthy to do it. And so if you feel like you're not the leader you want to be, okay, well, what's the story behind it? What's the experience that's keeping you held in that energy of disbelief?
Yeah, and that's not always something that you can see on your own because as the saying goes, it's hard to read the label from inside the jar.
I've never heard that. I love that.
You haven't? Okay.
Is that like mason jar or like jar of
Like any kind of jar, like if you're inside the jar, you can't read the
okay.
label.
I like that. Okay. I like that. I just,
That's why we often need somebody outside to help you break through those blocks.
yeah, and we all need it. Like I still work with a practitioner once a month because I miss things. We all miss things and having even a strategic partner that can come in and be like, "Hey man, you're making the wrong choice here." Or how about you take a or even just a sounding board to listen when you're having that hard moment or you're especially when you're in moment of transition. Transition is the most uncomfortable feeling because you're not quite where you're going
Mhm.
and you're not where you used to be and yet your energy is just like so unsettled because it's wanting to shake loose anything that no longer serves and yet that's the comfortability zone, that's where your safety is. And so yeah, having that person to come in and help you identify that pattern will then help you let it go so that what is meant to be will come in.
Yes, and I think also giving you the like the support and confidence that the choices that you're making that feel uncomfortable are okay. Like that's what you need to do. Like pushing you on to say, do that thing, spend that money that feels uncomfortable or whatever, take that step, whatever it is that you would rather retreat back into how you used to be, having that person like kind of push you.
Well, and understanding that the reason why we don't trust in our intuition is because we've been told not to. So even if you felt aligned to spend the money on the big thing that you're like, oh, this feels so uncomfortable because what if it doesn't come back? Well, money always comes back. When it's in alignment and you invest in alignment, it always comes back and multiplies. But then also understanding where the breakdown is in your trust in self and trust in decisions, because
Mm.
over time we've built this muscle of disbelief. And so again, we have to break that pattern and understand. And it comes back to knowing yourself. And that's like the scariest relationship that we build is the one with ourself because we have to look inside. And sometimes we don't like what we see, and that's okay. Like, I don't love everything about my past experience. It's so hard to share that because it's a part of me that
Mm.
I just fear people will judge me for even more. And yet, I have to learn that my insecurity is holding back a message that could change the next life. And I have to get over myself. And that's the hard part of doing the inner work, is that we see those things we don't like in ourselves, and then we have to start to forgive and give compassion towards that version. And that's even hard too.
Wow. This has been such a valuable conversation today. Thank you. Before we go, I always ask this question, and that is, what is the song? Are you a music person?
I'm a huge music person. If you follow me on my Instagram stories and you pay attention, the lyrics usually are correlating to whatever the story is. Like, it's so much fun to me. I'm definitely a millennial. Like, MySpace was the whole thing. So yes, long-winded way of
So,
saying yes.
all right. So, what is the song that you listen to when you need an extra boost of energy?
Okay, so Ready or Not by Britt Nicole, because it just starts out with Ready or Not, Here I Come. And it's all about living the life that you want to live. Now, she does have a Christian background, so she is relating it to God a little bit, but the underlying message is ready or not, here I come. And so if I'm not ready to do it, I know that I can. And I have never proven myself wrong in just going for it anyway.
Love that. Thank you. All right. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. And then lastly, if somebody wants to continue a conversation with you, where is the best place for them to find you?
Yes, the best place is to find me on LinkedIn, or if you're more comfortable on Instagram, I'm on both places, but it's just Candice Van Dertholen or Candice.elizabeth.c or underscore, sorry, Candice underscore Elizabeth at CO. Oh my gosh, you get it.
I'll put a link to it in show notes. Okay. Don't listen to whatever she just said. Just look for it in show notes. We'll have a link to her in LinkedIn and Instagram.
Yeah, there we go. Oh my gosh.
Okay, cool. Candice, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-letter word.
Thank you.
Before we close, I want to sit with a few things from my conversation with Candice Van Dertholen, because this one was really full. First, who you are is not the same as what happened to you. Candice named this directly when she said she went from daughter to mom at 19 with no Candice in between. Her identity crisis wasn't a character flaw, it was a natural result of never having space to exist outside of her roles. She then rebuilt herself piece by piece, not overnight, over years, with intention. Second, healing is not linear and it is never fully done. Candice also models this by still working with a practitioner monthly herself. She's not waiting until she's done to help others. She knows the work never fully ends. The layers keep revealing themselves. Candice had an aha moment about her mom just this year, decades later. That's a sign that the work is actually working. Third, we accept what feels familiar, even when it hurts us. Candice was specific that she didn't recognize the warning signs in her second marriage because volatility and uncertainty had been the emotional baseline of her childhood home. So it didn't feel dangerous, it felt normal. Understanding that pattern was the beginning of breaking it. Fourth, complex grief is real, even when the world tells you it isn't. Losing someone you had a painful history with brings a grief that doesn't fit neatly anywhere. Candice called it disenfranchised grief. It's valid. It deserves space. And finally, your story is someone else's lifeline. Candice almost didn't share hers, but as she said herself, her insecurity was holding back a message that could change the next life. So could yours. Ponder that thought for a moment. If something in today's episode landed for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Lori Seitz, and this is Fine is a 4-letter word. I'll see you next time.